In the winter of 1988, a chill settled over the town of Lebanon, Illinois, and with it came a sense of foreboding that whispered through the trees. It was during this icy season that the Smith family embarked on a journey that would drag them from the ordinary and plunge them headlong into a realm of strangeness they could never have fathomed. Mark Smith, a rugged farmer of Lebanon, had a spirit that refused to grow old. His heart was laced with the curiosity of youth, an unwavering determination to chart paths less traveled. It was this fervor that drew his mind to the town's abandoned asylum, a grim monument to the past that Mark saw as a canvas for the untold stories and hidden enigmas of history. He loved nothing more than to drag his family outdoors, and that would certainly be a fun trip together. Beside him stood Emily, his wife. She was drawn to mystery novels, soap operas, and tales of romance, yet beneath her seemingly mundane pursuits lay a well of depths. Emily's life had been marked by a tragedy, a miscarriage that had torn through her heart like a tempest. The scars of her fate ran deep, leaving her haunted by never-lived memories of the child she had lost. And in the wake of that loss, she had found herself reaching to the world of the dead. The miscarriage had cast her into a sea of grief, but it also awakened an unsettling need to understand the mysteries beyond life's veil. Their children, Alex and Lily, were young souls navigating the currents of their parents' passions. They carried within them the weight of empathy for their mother's silent struggles, mingled with a youthful thirst for adventure inherited from their father. The winter of 1988 found them on a path that would lead them into the heart of the inexplicable. In a remote corner on the outskirts of Lebanon, surrounded by sprawling cornfields, the Smith family discovered an abandoned asylum, a grim sentinel of mystery. Its presence was haunting, shrouded in legends and rumors that had woven themselves into the fabric of local lore. Curiosity gnawed at their minds, and though an eerie feeling crawled down their spines, the allure of the asylum's secrets was too potent to resist. The asylum, a relic of forgotten horrors, stood as a crumbling testament to the passage of time. Its weathered facade was a mosaic of cracked bricks and creeping ivy, bearing witness to decades of neglect and the weight of its own sinister history. The windows, once gateways to the outside world, now lay shattered, jagged edges casting grotesque silhouettes that resembled a malevolent grin. The very air surrounding the asylum was imbued with an unsettling stillness, broken only by the distant cries of ravens that circled overhead. Trees, gnarled and twisted, seemed to stretch toward the building as if drawn by an unseen force. The aura that enveloped the asylum was one of dread, a miasma that seemed to cling to its very foundations. As the Smith family ventured closer, the asylum's looming presence seemed to engulf them. The entrance, once a grand gateway, had surrendered to the ravages of time. Cracked stone steps led to the threshold, a doorway that seemed to bear the weight of countless sins committed in that building. The interior was a labyrinthine maze of dirty hallways and dimly lit chambers. The walls bore the scars of neglect, their peeling paint revealing layers of history. The scent of mildew and decay hung in the air, a tangible reminder of the lives that had been confined within these forsaken walls. Among the dilapidated rooms, the Smiths stumbled upon a chamber that seemed oddly out of place. A long table draped in a clean cloth stood at its center, flanked by 40 chairs. A chalkboard adorned one wall, an odd contrast to the decrepit surroundings. It was as if the room had been recently tended to, maintained by an unseen hand. Fear gripped Mark's heart, a surge of unease that pierced through his spirit. "We need to leave now," he exclaimed, his voice trembling with a mixture of anxiety and urgency. "Who knows what could be lurking here, or what nefarious purposes it may serve? Our safety comes first." The children's faces fell, disappointment etched into their expressions. They pleaded with their father, trying to convince him to stay, but his response was resolute, a cold and dry dismissal that brooked no further argument. "This is not up for discussion," We are leaving now." As the family retreated from the asylum's clutches, Emily's heart ached. Her gaze lingered on the signs and pictures that adorned the room, an inexplicable longing welling up within her. In that moment, she felt a connection, a sense that this place held a deeper meaning beyond its decay, a guardian, a healer, a guide through the darkness that had consumed her. Days turned to nights, and nights turned to a sleepless restlessness that gnawed at Emily's mind. It was a decision made in the quiet of her thoughts, a decision that whispered to her with a voice that felt foreign yet familiar. Tonight, she vowed, the weight of determination settling upon her like a shroud. And so, when the moon hung heavy in the sky, Emily found herself drawn back to the asylum, a moth to the flame of destiny. The pull was magnetic, irresistible, as if some unseen force tugged at the threads of her existence. Each step was a heartbeat, each heartbeat a countdown to the inevitable. The asylum's silhouette loomed before her, casting shadows in the moonlight. Emily slipped through a crack in the crumbling wall, her breath catching as she stepped into the asylum's heart. The chamber was dimly lit by the flickering flames of candles that danced like apparitions, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. The air was thick, and Emily's heart raced as she concealed herself in an adjacent room. She could peek into the chamber from the hole left by a missing brick on the wall. Before her, a scene of twisted beauty unfolded. 40 figures, shrouded in tattered robes, swayed in unison to a haunting melody that echoed through the chamber. Their chants rose in a macabre chorus, merging with the music to create a symphony of darkness that seemed to seep into Emily's very soul. She felt the hypnotic pull, the allure of the ritual's rhythm that threatened to ensnare her in its clutches. The air resonated with the haunting melody of their chants, merging with the ethereal strains of music to create a symphony of darkness that seemed to seep into Emily's very soul. She felt almost as part of it, like it made sense in her insane mind. Her heart raced in rhythm with the ritual's cadence, a harmony that threatened to ensnare her within its grasp. The allure of the forbidden danced in her mind, whispering promises of understanding and solace, a siren song that beckoned her closer to the abyss. At the center of the congregation stood the master, a man cloaked in shadows, his face obscured by a mask that seemed to shift and writhe like a living entity. The master's voice resonated heavily. The eerie luminescence of his eyes pierced the veil of Emily's reality, drawing her deeper into the unknown. She began wondering if that master had the knowledge to heal her pain, to make her forget, to take her to a superior existence, to enable her to understand fate as designed by God. The crescendo of the ritual was a cacophony of energy that pulsed through the air. Disciples' voices rose to a fevered pitch, their movements a frenetic dance that blurred the line between ecstasy and madness. It was then that the master's voice shifted, a voice that transcended the chamber's boundaries, a voice from the beyond. A rapturous ecstasy overtook the disciples, a state of transcendent communion that bridged the realms of the living and the departed. Through the master's voice, they would converse with those who had passed beyond life's veil, their words heavy with longing and grief. Emily's heart swelled with a mixture of sorrow and yearning, tears streaming down her cheeks as she bore witness to the inexplicable. The ritual continued, each disciple taking their turn with the master to commune with the other side. A collective fervor consumed them, a fervor that seemed to ignite the very air they breathed. And as Emily watched, an unexplainable sensation gripped her, a sensation that whispered of belonging, of a purpose she had longed to find. Unable to suppress her emotions any longer, Emily's sobs pierced the silence of the chamber. A torrent of emotions cascaded through her, a mixture of longing, despair, and a thirst for connection that had gone unquenched for too long. Her presence was exposed, her very essence laid bare before the master's gaze. "Stop!" Emily's voice trembled, the weight of her pain and desire etched into the single word. "Please, let me speak to my baby, please." the master's masked gaze fixed upon her, and in that fleeting moment the chamber held its breath. The disciples' chants faltered, the ritual's rhythm stuttering like a broken melody. Emily's heart raced, her entire being suspended in the tension that hung in the air. "Child of grief," the master's voice resonated, carrying a timbre that seemed to reverberate through the cosmos. "Step forward and commune with your beloved departed." Emily crossed the threshold of candlelight, her tears blending with the shifting shadows that danced upon her face. She closed her eyes, her spirit poised at the precipice of the unknown, as the master's voice wrapped around her like a cocoon. "Baby," she whispered, her voice a fragile tremor that echoed her vulnerability. "Are you there?" In the stillness that followed, a presence enveloped her, a whisper of a touch that traversed the boundaries of life and death. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, the very fabric of reality trembling on the brink of revelation. It was a moment that defied logic, a communion that transcended the laws of nature. And in that moment, a voice, an echo of her past and her deepest longings, pierced the silence. "I hear you, Mother. But reality is a fragile thing, easily shattered by the truths that dwell in the depths of our minds." As Emily's world swayed on the precipice of her revelation, the fabric of her delusion tore asunder. The harsh light of the asylum's reality flooded her senses, yanking her from the sanctuary of her visions. Voices echoed, harsh and unrelenting. The mechanical hum of machines, the orders of doctors, the cacophony of an existence that felt alien and cruel. Emily's mind reeled, her consciousness struggling to reconcile the fragments of truth that tumbled like shards of glass in her psyche. The staff treated her with the callous indifference that had become the hallmark of her captivity. Their eyes, devoid of empathy, regarded her as nothing more than a vessel of madness, a creature to be prodded, manipulated, and contained. She was a patient, an inmate of the asylum, her identity warped and reshaped by the hands that wielded power over her fragile psyche. "Escort her to ESP," intoned a towering figure, his timbre an eerie echo of the master's own. His countenance also veiled by a mask, a surgical mask. The moment arrived, as inexorable as fate itself, the electric shock therapy that was to serve as a brutal reminder of her reality. Emily's heart pounded like a drumbeat of doom as the electrodes were affixed to her temples, a cold reminder of the torment that awaited her. The room swirled in her vision, a kaleidoscope of fear and uncertainty that paralyzed her in its grip. And yet, as the current surged through her, as pain seared her senses and darkness closed in around her, there was a voice, an echo from the chasm of her subconscious, a whisper that carried the weight of eternity. "It's gonna be all right, Mother." That was The Asylum, a short story by R.P. Althoff. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to our channel. That helps to pay for our production costs. See you next time.